script, the spoken word, behavior, your action, what is it you want, what is it you are doing in the film, has to do with actually reflection of who you are, what the character is, and knowing your lines. Because the moment you're searching for lines, your mind, your eyes are somewhere else. Even if they're looking straight, the eyes are going somewhere else. The great Spencer Tracy says always to advise to young actors, learn your lines, hit your marks, and don't bump into the furniture. And that means so much, because the naturality that you say, and I'm grateful for that, comes from practice. Because if you don't know your craft, you will never be able to be truthful. First, you put everything into that moment, and then allow yourself to be truthful. It is the truthfulness that looks natural, not the chabana, chai pina.
You are watching The World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bava. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. Well, Pakistan for 12 consecutive nights has fired on Indian posts along the line of control. India has strongly responded to Islamabad's repeated cross-border firing. UNSC closed-door meeting regarding the escalating tensions between India and Pakistan ends with no statement. The meeting, as we covered, was called at the request of Pakistan. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said the country was on the eve of a forceful entry to Gaza after his cabinet approved a plan to escalate its military operation in the enclave. Iranian Minister of Foreign Affairs Abbas Araghchi urged India and Pakistan to exercise restraint upon his arrival in Islamabad. This ahead of his visit to New Delhi later this week. Prominent Hindu leader Chinmoy Krishnadas was shown arrested on charges of the murder of Chittagong court lawyer Saiful Islam Alif by a local court. The lawyer was allegedly hacked to death outside the court premises on the 7th of November last year. The Indian government has lodged a strong protest with the Canadian High Commission in New Delhi following an anti-India parade held in Toronto in Canada. And well, Diljit Dosanjh defies labels and he brought the house down with his powerful look at the Met Gala. Apart from Dosanjh, the Indian stars who were present at the Met Gala this year were Shah Rukh Khan, Kiara Advani and Priyanka Chopra Jonas. Well, a big focus. Pakistan now for 12 consecutive nights has fired on Indian posts along the line of control. India has strongly responded to Islamabad's repeated cross-border firing. In fact, Pakistan Army has yet again resorted to unprovoked small arms firing from posts across the line of control in areas opposite Kupwara, Baramulla in Jammu and Kashmir. My colleague Shiv Arur has been tracking the latest for us. He joins us live at the moment. Shiv, what are the latest details you can disclose this morning?
Good morning, Parmeshwar. You are correct. This is the 12th night of ceasefire violations that have taken place on the line of control. The identical 8 sectors running for the last 3 nights, focusing largely on the Jammu sectors. With these 8 sectors, including Kupwara and Baramulla, which I visited over the last few days, which are basically LOC areas in the Kashmir area. The other 6 sectors are all in the Jammu area. What this basically means is that the 600-kilometer stretch of the line of control of Jammu and Kashmir, separating from Kargil and Ladakh, are basically completely active right now, with ceasefire violations happening for 12 days running by the Pakistan Army. As we've been reporting, these ceasefire violations have sort of hit a rhythm now. There is a pattern to them, and with the last 3 nights seeing the exact same posts light up at night, with the intensity and duration increasing incrementally by a few minutes, we are told that there seems to be a focus on the Jammu region. You know, all of the 6 sectors of the LC in Jammu, whether it is Akhnoor, Naushera, Rajouri, Poonch, Mendhar, all of these sectors have been activated by the Pakistan Army, which seems to suggest they see some threat perhaps from there. We can only speculate as far as that is concerned. But it is obviously clear that there is no let up at all in these violations. Remember, today is Tuesday. The 3rd Directorate General of Military Operations level hotline chat will take place between brigadier level officers of both sides. I'm sure India will once again issue a warning to Pakistan, but after 12 consecutive nights of ceasefire violations, Parmeshwar, I don't think they're going to let up anytime soon. Remember, India also has mock drills and other signals that are coming up. I don't think these are going to let up soon.
Well, Shiv, as always, thank you so much for joining us with the latest from Ground Zero. As Shiv is mentioning, the Indian government has asked several states to conduct security mock drills on Wednesday, the 7th of May, for effective civil defense in the event of a hostile attack amid tensions between India and Pakistan following the Pahalgam deadly terror attack on the 22nd of April. In fact, I must inform you that the Ministry of Home Affairs has asked states to take the following measures: operationalization of air raid warning sirens, the training of civilians and students on the civil defense aspects to protect themselves in the event of a hostile attack. In fact, the 3rd step is provision of crash blackout measures, also provision for early camouflaging of vital plants and installations, and the updation of the evacuation plan and its rehearsal. You must note that the timing of the centre's order is crucial. The last such drill was conducted in 1971, the year in which India and Pakistan went to war on 2 fronts. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council commenced closed-door consultations on the situation between India and Pakistan just hours after Secretary General Antonio Guterres voiced concern over tensions between the nuclear-armed neighbours being at their highest in years. Just listen in to the UN Secretary General's remarks.
Tensions between India and Pakistan are at their highest in years. I deeply respect and I am profoundly grateful to the government of people of both countries and their significant contributions to the work of the United Nations, not least UN peacekeeping. And so it pains me to see relations reaching a boiling point. I understand the raw feelings following the awful terror attack in Pahalgam on 22 April. I once again strongly condemn that attack and extend my condolences to the families of the victims. Targeting civilians is unacceptable, and those responsible must be brought to justice through credible lawful means. It is also essential, especially at this critical hour, to avoid a military confrontation that could easily spin out of control. Now is the time for maximum restraint and stepping back from the brink.
Well, for an expert's view on the matter, joining us on the broadcast at the moment, Michael Kugelman. Always a pleasure to have you on NDTV, sir. The UNSC closed-door meeting is said to have ended with no outcomes and no statement after this meeting was called at the request of Pakistan. Mr. Kugelman, would you argue this is along expected lines?
Yes, I don't think that we should have expected any sort of significant announcement to come after this meeting. I mean, we've seen that there's been a pretty significant consensus around the world since the terrible terrorist attack on the 22nd of April, and that is to condemn the attack that happened, but also to call for de-escalation. And that consensus has certainly extended to the UN and to the members of the UN Security Council. And so I would think that these deliberations that happened on Monday probably discussed exactly that. And as articulated by the UN Secretary General in that clip that you played before, I suspect that in the meeting they all agreed that we need to condemn the attack and encourage the two sides to de-escalate, or at least not to escalate. So in that sense, I don't think that we should have expected anything notable to come out of these consultations.
But Mr. Kugelman, Tehran, meanwhile, has quickly and publicly actually offered to take on the role of a mediator. We know high-level trips are planned to India later this week, currently in Pakistan as well. What do you think is driving Iran, and how do you see this playing out?
Right. I mean, this is a notable development because it's one thing to have countries simply call for de-escalation, as we've seen at the UN, but it's something else for a country to actually publicly position itself as a mediator. And indeed, I mean, we had the Iranian foreign minister in Pakistan on Monday, and indeed he's due in India later this week. I suspect that Iran wants to signal to various audiences that it is capable of being a responsible player and a proponent of peace. And I suspect, for very practical reasons, it would want to take whatever step it can to reduce the likelihood of another conflict in its broader region. Iran, of
Right.
course, shares a very long border with Pakistan.
Meanwhile, Mr. Kugelman, in Pakistan, do you think the military's attempt to consolidate support using this crisis will offer only a temporary reprieve from domestic discontent, or is there potential for lasting political dividends?
Well, I think it is true that if you have this crisis escalate into a conflict, that that's something that could provide benefits, political benefits, for the civilian and the military leadership in Pakistan, because it is both the civilian leadership and the military leadership are not popular in Pakistan at this point. So they would have an opportunity to rally the country around them and try to win back support and goodwill. And the military, of course, has always wanted to be seen in Pakistan as the country's protector from this so-called Indian threat. And if we're in a position where India were to strike in Pakistan, or if there was a fear that India will strike in Pakistan, and this is the fear of many in Pakistan, that gives the military an opportunity to essentially bolster its claim to be the entity that can protect the country from harm, including from threats from India next door. So yeah, I do think that there are some perhaps immediate term, short-term benefits for the military in this current crisis, but I don't see how there's any benefits for Pakistan of any type of conflict. I don't think it wants a conflict. No one wants a conflict. But the last thing Pakistan could afford is a conflict, given all the turmoil it has going on at home, given the upsurges in terrorism. The terrorists would likely try to exploit the Pakistani military being distracted by a war with India. So all kinds of possible unfortunate negative scenarios that could come out of a conflict that Pakistan has plunged into.
In fact, that's something experts have warned about. Well, we'll be keeping a close eye on all the key developments with you, Mr. Kugelman. Thank you so much for making time for us and joining us on NDTV. As you know, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in one of his strongest statements so far, has cautioned that both countries must avoid a military confrontation that he said could easily spin out of control, describing the tensions since the Pahalgam attacks as the highest in years and reaching a boiling point. But as we were discussing, Iranian Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi met with the Chief of Army Staff General Saeed Asim Munir in Islamabad amid rising tensions between India and Pakistan following the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam. Now, this visit follows days after Mr. Araghchi proposed to de-escalate tensions between Pakistan and India, stating that Tehran is prepared to employ its good offices in Islamabad and New Delhi to forge greater understanding at this difficult time. By the way, as I highlighted just a few minutes ago, Mr. Abbas Araghchi is scheduled to visit India on Thursday. This is what the Embassy of Iran in India has confirmed. With that, let's turn our attention now to Canada, where India has actually lodged a strong protest with Canada over the threatening language and unacceptable imagery targeting Indian leadership at a parade held in Toronto. The floats at the parade over the weekend on Sunday reportedly featured pro-Khalistan propaganda and imagery attacking the Indian leaders, including Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Indian side again called on Canadian authorities to act against anti-India elements who are spreading hatred and advocating extremism and a separatist agenda. This is what our sources have informed us. Meanwhile, according to reports, New Democrats are expected to select an interim leader when the party's federal council is scheduled to meet. In fact, we should have clarity on that in a few hours from now. The federal council is meeting after the party had the worst showing in its history on election night, and leader Jagmeet Singh lost his BC seat and announced on the spot that he would be resigning. As far as the outrage is concerned over this parade in Toronto, my colleague Maha Siddiqui has been tracking all the finer developments. She joins us live at the moment. Maha, the latest episode of strain in ties between our two countries comes just days after Mark Carney's victory in the general election.
Yes, and just when we were expecting that under the new leadership of Mark Carney, the relations between India and Canada could improve because Mark Carney had indicated that he would like a reset in the relationship with India. We are seeing this point, which has caused friction in the past between the two countries, emerge again. This time from Greater Toronto area, where in a parade, there was a float that had threatening imagery as well as language. This was targeted at Indian leaders, and India has raised this issue with the Canadian High Commission in New Delhi. Sources have told NDTV that the Canadian High Commission was also told about how they need to crack down on these extremist views and crack down on those who are spreading this hateful narrative against India as well. This is a message that has been conveyed by India in the past as well to Canada, and we have seen souring of the relationships between the two countries to an extent where both the countries, in fact, expelled each other's diplomats in large numbers, including the topmost diplomat of both the countries. And therefore, this is a very difficult issue to navigate, something that India has asked Canada to take a very close look at whether they would allow such hateful, violent propaganda against India to take place on its soil. So this is the message that has been conveyed by India yet again to the Canadian side.
As always, Maha, thanks so much for joining us with that update. Do stay on with us for the next story we're tracking as well. US President Donald Trump's meetings with foreign leaders, they've rarely unfolded according to script. I mean, just ask Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, whose recent Oval Office visit spiraled into a televised dressing down that left diplomats stunned, even as his approval ratings at home ticked up. But now it's Canada's turn. Today, newly elected Prime Minister Mark Carney will become the latest leader to step into the high-stakes theatre of Trump's White House. But for Canadians, the risks feel uniquely acute. Maha's joining us with an update on this as well. Maha, you've covered extensively that Trump has already floated the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state, suggesting its Prime Minister should be called governor and impose sweeping tariffs. So what can we actually expect from this big Carney-Trump meeting?
This will be the first in-person meeting between the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, and US President Donald Trump after the tariffs have been unleashed against Canada, which threaten to derail its economy. So the big question is really whether Canada and Mark Carney will be asking for the lifting or pausing of these tariffs before they start negotiating an economic and a security agreement. That's what we are expecting the two sides to do, considering that US President Donald Trump has shown that he's not even satisfied with the renegotiated NAFTA, which happened during his previous tenure, and which is now called CUSMA. This is the North American agreement between Mexico, US, and Canada. It's a trade deal that came into being during the last tenure of President Trump. And now he's showing signs that he believes that even that is not being lived up to its expectation as per what US wants from Canada and Mexico. And that is why he's gone ahead and imposed the tariffs that we are seeing, 25% tariffs on non-CUSMA compliant goods coming into the US, 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel, 25% tariff on auto and auto parts, as well as 10% tariff on energy products. So what we're expecting, Parmeshwar, in that meeting is both sides, not only the leaders to talk, but a delegation level talk. And then we will wait to watch how these negotiations further go ahead. The one thing that we know is that Mark Carney has said that he will be negotiating and talking to US President Donald Trump as the leader of a sovereign nation, thereby dismissing the idea of Canada being the 51st state of the US.
As always, Maha, thank you so much for joining us with the lowdown from Vancouver. Let's turn our attention now to Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said the country was on the eve of a forceful entry to Gaza after his cabinet approved a plan to escalate its military operation in the enclave. In fact, in a Hebrew language video message on X addressing the Security Cabinet approval plan to expand the Gaza offensive, Netanyahu said that Gaza's Palestinian population will be moved, and I'm quoting him here, for its own protection. But 18 months of Israeli attacks have killed more than 52,000 Palestinians in Gaza, including thousands of children, and wounded nearly 120,000 others. Netanyahu also said Israeli soldiers would not go into Gaza, launch raids and then retreat. The intention is the opposite of that. That's what he says on record, but his remarks come as Israel's political and military leaders approve plans to expand the Gaza offensive and take over aid deliveries to the devastated and starved enclave. By the way, the Israeli military said it carried out airstrikes against Yemen's Hodeidah port a day after the Iran-aligned Houthis fired a missile that struck near Israel's main airport. The military said in a statement that it attacked what it called Houthi terrorist targets in Hodeidah and its vicinity.
בלילה ישבנו עד שעה מאוחרת בקבינט והחלטנו על פעולה עצימה בעזה. זו הייתה המלצת הרמטכ"ל, ללכת, כפי שהוא אמר, להכרעה של החמאס, ובדרך הוא חושב שזה יסייע לנו גם לחלץ את החטופים, ואני מסכים איתו. אנחנו לא מרפים מהמאמץ הזה ולא נוותר על אף אחד. זה מה שאנחנו עושים. אנחנו תהיה הנאה של האוכלוסייה כדי להגן עליה.
Well, let's switch tracks now. Russia says Ukraine has launched an overnight drone attack targeting Moscow for the second night in a row, and all four of the capital's major airports have been closed temporarily to ensure safety. This is what Russia's aviation watchdog has said. Meanwhile, Moscow's mayor on social media said at least 19 Ukrainian drones had been destroyed before they reached the city from different directions. He said some of the debris had landed on one of the key highways into the city, but that there were no casualties. As far as Ukraine is concerned, Ukraine has not yet commented on the reports which come after fresh incursions into Russia's Kursk region on Monday. Slipping into a quick break for now, back in a moment with much more. Do stay tuned.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
In 2003 is when Munna Bhai MBBS happens to you.
Right.
Dr. Asthana. And then in 2009 is when you become Virus in Three Idiots. And then you make a directorial venture through Mehta Boys.
Right.
It has been quite a journey.
Yes.
But these two characters were particularly those which are seen as iconic. Would you say that they reshaped your entire, acting career?
You're absolutely right. People identify me with these two characters. I have had a learning curve through a lot of other characters too, but yes, there's no denial that these two, and if I might be allowed to put in one more, was Khosla Khurana. Because, and you're from Delhi, right? And I was cast for that role and I was very hesitant. I went to Delhi to do some research on the character and I met a young actor over there, not young in my eyes, who said, I'm a little upset with you. I said, why? He said, I auditioned for this role. And of course, you didn't get it. So, but why are you upset with me? Tell the casting director or the director, why are you blaming me? He says, you see, you're a Parsi from Bombay.
Let's turn our attention now to the neighborhood. Prominent Hindu leader Chinmoy Krishnadas was shown arrested on charges of the murder of Chittagong court lawyer Saiful Islam Alif by a local court. The lawyer was allegedly hacked to death outside the court premises on the 7th of November last year, and Chittagong's Metropolitan Magistrate S.M. Alauddin granted the police application for Das's arrest and passed the order during a virtual hearing. With that, let's turn our attention now to the United States, where President Donald Trump and his family are deepening their embrace of cryptocurrency. The crypto industry is holding a $1.5 million per plate fundraiser for the president, believe it or not, and Trump is hosting a dinner later this month for top holders of the Trump meme token. The family's crypto firm's stablecoin is being used in a $2 billion investment by an Abu Dhabi-backed fund. But Trump's embrace of digital currency, including a deregulation pledge and calls for a crypto reserve, leads to socializing risks. Some experts argue it could be the taxpayer that's called on to bail out crypto businesses. Well, in other news, Bhuvan Ribhu has become the first Indian lawyer to receive the Medal of Honor from the World Jurist Association. Now, this prestigious award was bestowed on Ribhu at the World Law Congress in the Dominican Republic and honors his unwavering service to children. The Medal of Honor is in recognition of a jurist who has fundamentally transformed India's approach to child protection, recasting it not as a matter of social welfare, but as a crisis demanding urgency, accountability, and redressal through the criminal justice system.
Board members of the board.
Every lawyer, every police officer, every child protection agency person, and
finally, Diljit Dosanjh defies labels, and he brought the house down with his powerful look at the Met Gala. It's fashion's biggest night, and India indeed made history. Mayank Chaudhary is here to take us through how Desi stars lit up the Met Gala. Mayank, it's over to you.
It's the Met Gala morning, fashion's biggest event, and the stars have aligned to celebrate the opening of the new exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. It's a massive, action-packed fashion parade, and India is having a brilliant moment with King Khan prowling the stairs of the Metropolitan Museum dressed in Sabyasachi. Shah Rukh Khan made his Met debut looking absolutely dapper in a black Sabyasachi suit, honoring the theme of dandyism. Shah Rukh showed up with a cane and wore layers of opulent jewelry, also an oversized rhinestone-studded K pendant. B-Town babe Kiara Advani was glowing on the carpet, flaunting her baby bump in a black and white Gaurav Gupta ensemble, adding a dramatic touch with a gold breastplate. Our always peppy Desi girl Priyanka Chopra went for a polka dot look by French fashion house Balmain, all alongside her beau Nick Jonas. Punjabi music icon Diljit Dosanjh also made his royal debut in a white Prabal Gurung attire, decorating his look with turban, several layers of jewelry and a kripan. Celebrating this exhibition, the theme is superfine tailoring black style. The Met Gala red carpet so far has been a visual feast. Zendaya to Louis Hamilton to Soul Queen Diana Ross. Stars have displayed multiple interpretations of tailoring and classical suits, contributing to the annual fashion extravaganza. Closing the red carpet was none other than bad girl Rihanna. Rihanna showed up in a black tailored Marc Jacobs look and absolutely shut down the red carpet. Her husband, A$AP Rocky, is also one of the co-chairs. This Met Gala has been a fabulous celebration of culture, craft, community, and creativity.
Thank you so much for taking us through the lowdown. Really appreciate it. And on that note, thank you so much for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Hello and welcome. We have a very special guest with us here today on the NDTV network for an exclusive interview. It's the Second Lady of the United States, Ms. Usha Vance. Ms. Vance, NDTV की दर्शकों की तरफ से आपको नमस्कार. You know, there's a lot of curiosity about what's going on in your kitchen. Everyone is most interested because the Vice President himself has said that he was a meat and potatoes man until he met you, and then your mother taught him how to cook. So now everyone wants to know, what is it that he cooks for you?
Well, he's very experimental. He'll try anything. So he's done everything from chana masala to, has been making a specialty of